For many EV shoppers, range anxiety is real. But what is range anxiety? That's the fear of running out of juice before you get where you're going. Becoming an informed shopper can relieve some or all of those concerns. So let's take a deep breath and a deep dive into all things EV range related, including common range needs and factors that impact an EV's stated range. The big question most shoppers need to ask is not how far can this EV go on a charge, but how much range do I actually need? That depends on a couple things, namely how far you typically drive, in what conditions you drive, and your access to public and home chargers. It might seem difficult to get a sense of just how much range you need for everyday driving, but here are some considerations to help you come up with a number. First, consider your daily commute. About how many miles round trip is it? Think of your home as the place you refuel. So in most daily driving, you might not need as much range as you might think. Every night, or maybe even every few nights, you plug in at home and recharge to replenish your driving range. If you don't have a home charger, factor in the location of your favorite public charging station. Most data suggests the average driver travels less than 30 to 40 miles per day. Considering the average standard EPA estimated driving range of model year 23 EVs is around 260 miles, almost all EVs would get you where you need to go with range to spare. For example, the EV with the lowest EPA-rated driving range is currently the compact Mazda MX-30 with just 100 miles. The EV with the longest range is the much more expensive Lucid Air luxury sedan with over 500 miles of range. In reality, most EVs in the $35,000 to $60,000 span have between 200 and 300 miles of range, which is more than enough for just about anyone. But you might need more range than you realize. One reason is that automakers recommend you charge the battery to no more than 80 or 90% on a regular basis and try not to drop below 10% to extend its life. A full 100% charge is only recommended if you're planning a longer trip. That means you're immediately cutting the EPA estimated manufacturer advertised range by up to 30% for daily use if you want maximum battery life. Driving style is another factor. EVs are less efficient at highway speeds. For example, a 23 Tesla Model Y's range drops from 342 miles in the city to 316 miles at highway speeds. Also, other usage factors affect range. Things like aggressive acceleration and use of climate features such as heated seats can also reduce range, although not as drastically. Another ever-changing and unpredictable variable is Mother Nature. Being able to charge daily doesn't account for worst-case scenarios like being away from home when range is falling fast. When does that happen? In cold weather. According to studies, EVs can lose about 40% of their range when the temperature drops from 75 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit due to temporary battery capacity loss and the energy consumption needed to heat the cabin. If you live in places where it gets cold, your range is going to be affected. For example, an EV with a rated range of 250 miles could only have 150 miles of range when it's just 20 degrees outside. That's on top of normal battery loss. Just like your cell phone battery, EV batteries lose capacity as they age. Some studies show EV batteries lose 5 to 10% of overall capacity over the span of 5 years. So the worst case scenario is that a 5-year-old EV with an original 250-mile range might get you only 125 miles on a very cold day. If all conditions are favorable, you might not need as much range as you think, but it might make sense for you to pad your number with the higher range model or trim. Knowing how much driving you typically do and factoring in how much range to expect based on everything we just mentioned should help you zero in on the best EV for you, and hopefully alleviate some of that range anxiety. And the best way to eliminate that range anxiety? Preserving your EV's battery health, which we go over in our next episode of EV 101. Until then, you can learn all about electric vehicles at Cars.com/EV.